Well, if I asked you what is the boiling point of pure water, you know it is exactly 100 degrees centigrade. What is the freezing point of pure water? Of course, it is 0 degrees centigrade. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if I dissolve 1 mole of glucose or urea in 1 kg water, what would be the boiling point of this solution? The boiling point of this solution, you can find it to be 100.52 degrees centigrade. And the freezing point of this solution will be minus 1.86 degrees centigrade. Whenever I am dissolving a solute like glucose, urea, sucrose, anything that is a non-electrolyte that cannot conduct electric current, like this type of solute, the boiling point will get elevated and the freezing point gets depressed. Also, such solution can cause what is called as osmotic pressure. Mind you that these properties like elevation in boiling point, depression in freezing point, osmotic pressure are all caused by the solute particles. Now, if I dissolve 1 mole of glucose, how many solute particles are there in this 1 kg solution? I call it as 1 molal solution. Obviously, it is equal to 1 mole or Avogadro number. True. Suppose if I dissolve 1 mole of NaCl, will it have really Avogadro number of particles? Means no, because NaCl is an electrolyte. It potentially can separate itself into Na plus and Cl minus ions in a very diluted solution. If I take 100 NaCl units, they break down to give 100 Na plus 100 Cl minus. Therefore, the number of particles are increasing and colligative properties will proportionally get increased. Notice that I can use colligative properties to calculate the molecular weight. So, if I calculate the molecular weight of glucose based on the elevation, boiling point or depression, freezing point or osmotic pressure, the real molecular weight of glucose is equal to calculated molecular weight of glucose based on the experimental data. However, for NaCl, in a very diluted solution, as we know, it dissociates to give 2 particles out of each NaCl. The experimental data gives me a molecular weight that is exactly half of the real molecular weight. It means dissociation will decrease the real molecular weight of the material calculated as per the experimental data. Therefore, if you want to get the real molecular weight, you have to multiply the experimental data with a certain value called I. I is called want-half factor. Want-half factor is defined as number of particles of solute produced, the number of particles of solute after dissolution, divided by number of particles before dissolution. You know, I is always greater than 1 if electrolyte dissociates. What is the want-half factor means? The number of particles after dissolution divided by number of particles of solute before dissolution. It is also equal to normal molecular weight, as you can calculate from formula, divided by experimentally determined molecular weight of the solute. If you take NaCl, its normal molecular weight is 58.5, but experimental molecular weight will be half of this, that is 29.25. So, want-half factor will be 2 in a very diluted solution of NaCl, as every NaCl breaks down to be 1 Na plus and Cl minus. Now let us examine. If I take An that dissociates to give me Na particles, You start with one particle before dissolution and it dissociates to an extent of alpha. So I will be getting an alpha. So total number of particles before dissolution is 1, but after dissolution 1 minus alpha of A will be left out and n alpha of individually A particles which got separated will be available. So it is equal to 1 plus alpha into n minus 1. That is called as total number of particles after dissolution. It means that I minus 1 is equal to alpha into n minus 1. I minus 1 by n minus 1 is equal to alpha, the degree of dissociation. Well, for NaCl alpha value can be calculated if you know alpha value. If you know alpha value, you can calculate I value. Now my problem is, what is N? NaCl theoretically can break down to give two particles. One is Na plus, the other one is Cl minus. For it, N is equal to 2. Similarly, if I take CaCl2, its N value is equal to 3. Because it can give one Cl plus 2 and 2 Cl minus. If I take AlCl3, in fact N is equal to 4 because it gives one Al plus 3, 3 Cl minus. But there are some tricky materials. If I look at Hg2Cl2, actually it breaks down to give Hg2 2 plus ions and 2 Cl minus ions. So N is equal to 3. So it is deceiving. Formula is deceiving. If I am looking at phosphoric acid, because it completely dissociates, because all the 3 hydrogens are linked through oxygens. It has 3 OH groups. It can give 3H plus and phosphate ion. Therefore, its N is equal to 4. However, there is confusion. If I have phosphorus acid, H3PO3, well, its structure is like this. It means it has only 2 OH groups, so it can give only 2 H plus and 1 HPO3 2 minus. So N factor N is equal to 3 for phosphorus acid. So you can't really increase the number of particles just by looking at the formula. Well, now I will be wondering, what is the N value for Ki3? Ki3 can dissociate into K plus and I3 minus. So its N is equal to 2. What is the N value for sodium azide? Even sodium azide dissociates like Na plus and N3 minus ion, azide ion. So its N value is 2. So these are some cases where N value will be different from what it looks like. Now let us quickly look at what could be the N value. What is the maximum number of particles, say K4 FeCl 6 can be. Any complex, the coordination pair acts as one unit and counter ions act as many as they appear. So it gives 4 K plus ions and 1 ferrocyanide ion. So put together it is 5. So N factor, that is N number of particles produced by 1 unit of any material, is to be understood clearly. Similarly, when I am taking acetic acid in water, well, it can dissociate to give acetate ions and H plus ions. Only in water it is doing this, or any polar solvent. So N factor for acetic acid in water is more than 1 as it dissociates. However, if I take acetic acid in benzene, 2 molecules of acetic acid will join together through hydrogen bonds like this. It is called dimer. Di means 2, mer means molecules. As 2 molecules are joining, if I take 20 acetic acids in benzene, you will be getting 10 dimers. It means number of particles actually decrease in case of acetic acid taken in benzene. It is called association. So for acetic acid, van der factor will be half. Why half? Because you are getting 1 particle out of 2 particles which are linking together. So van der factor is less than 1 in case of association. For example, if I have HF, even in vapor phase, 6 HF molecules exist together. Therefore, its N value will be 1 by 6. If something is making a trimer, 3 A's are combining to give A3. then its n value will be 1 by 3. So always n means number of particles produced after dissolution will be less in the case of association. Its value is more than 1 in case of dissociation. So notice association leads to experimental data that gives higher molar mass. Dissociation leads to experimental data that leads to lower molar mass calculated based on qualitative properties. We are very clear about Van 't Hoff factor. In light of the Van 't Hoff factor, the elevation in boiling point of solution delta Tb is given as I Kb to m, where I is Van 't Hoff factor. Delta T of depression freezing point is equal to I Kf into m, where I is the Van 't Hoff factor. You should know clearly how is I is related to the degree of dissociation. In case of dissociation, alpha is equal to I minus 1 by n minus 1. In case of association, alpha is equal to I minus 1 by n minus 1. Or it can also be written as n into I minus 1 by 1 minus n. So we can use these formulas to relate alpha with Van 't Hoff factor. And if they give any one of these two, other one can calculate it, provided if I know what is it. I hope you understood this. Thank you.